They say theater is A doing B for C. When an actor tells a story to an audience, when an actor shares his ideas, his feelings, a concept, a belief, a philosophy, a narrative, then there is theater. Theater also happens when in the telling of the story, the actor chooses forms or explores forms as a way of communicating to the audience. And the audience, in turn, responds to the communication of the actor. Therefore, when the spectator relates or interacts with the actor and does not merely become a spectator but a spect-actor, there is theater. There is theater when the audience engages the actor and the actor responds to the audience in a lively exchange to further the experience of theater. Then you can appreciate that what is happening in front of you is that theater experience. The USA Little Theater is a university theater, and we take you on what that means. We are, in a way, a university. And they say that a university has a threefold function: research, instruction, and extension. Given that these are the functions of a university and that our theater is, in a way, a university, those are the elements of our theater, and therefore those are our non-negotiables. Meaning, we start our creative process with research, with looking into the material, with its history, with the heritage of the work, with the dramaturgy of the work, with the facts that are presented in our storytelling. We ask people, we look into secondary documents, we look into other sources of information that will bring to us the theme and the story of our narrative. So we research. The second part and the second function of a university is instruction. From the research aspect, we now teach what we have uncovered, what we have discovered and rediscovered to our actors by virtue of a rehearsal. So in the process, we read the script, we understand the script, we learn from the script and the story. We learn the three dimensions of our characters as actors. We learn about the relationship of these actors and the various elements of a story coming into play: the character, the conflict, the theme, the plot, the setting, and all of these things coming in together. And it is through the rehearsals, through reading, through blocking, through run-throughs, through dress tech rehearsals, through critiquing, through premieres, and even runs, we're able to discover what the play means to us personally and as well as to our audience. So in other words, theater is a process of education, it's a process of instruction, it's a process of learning and unlearning, discovering new frontiers, new aspects of the theme and the story that we're looking into. So research and then of course instruction. Another important aspect of our work, or another element of our theater, is extension. Theater is a celebration of a community. So earlier I talked about theater as A doing B for C. So this is where A now relates to C. You see, the performance that we have on stage is a conversation, is an engagement with the audience, and therefore it's an extension of what we have discovered to our audience. So that sort of relationship with our audience, that engagement with our audience, becomes an outreach, a reach out, an extension process. So that is true with our theater. There is research, there is instruction, there is extension in the practice of our work, and therefore our university theater is in a way a university. Our theater is a microcosm of a university because there are elements of research, instruction, and extension in our process. Therefore, putting all of these things into consideration, a successful theater happens when the actor's performance connects with the audience, engages the audience. When our research becomes a story, when the story finds form, and that performance connects with the community in the theater space, then that is a successful production. Then that is a successful theater. Likewise, we believe that theater is successful when it expresses our own aesthetics.
The USALT aesthetics can be expressed into 4 words: matahong, matinlo, maalam, kag may dulot. First is matahong, beautiful. Is the work artistically pleasing? Does it awe me and inspire me even if the issues are ugly and painful? When put together, is it still artistically pleasing?
Clean. Is the performance put together well? Is the performance organized in such a way that all the elements work together in harmony?
Third is maalam, intelligent. It has an intellectual core. It wants to say something important and relevant.
Fourth is may dulot. It affects me. It makes me laugh, it makes me cry, it makes me angry. It moves me to do something.
So when all of these elements come together, mataho, matinlo, maalam, may dulot, then it is a successful production. The USA Little Theater is an Augustinian university theater. It's Augustinian because the values share the philosophy and the core values of St. Augustine, the patron of our university. Therefore, the values of the play, the values of the theater organization reflect the core values.
In the last decades, USA Little Theater devises new plays written and staged by its own members. Underlying the theme are the Augustinian core values of veritas or truth, caritas or charity, and unitas, unity, expressed in themes, plot, character of various stories it has staged.
Veritas takes form in the examination of social issues and discovering truth behind these issues that shape the play's intellectual core.
Kung pamboto naman niya, mga competence kami na malakad, di ba?
Caritas is expressed in expressions of love for God, friends and family, others, the country, and the environment. Unitas manifests in both medium and message of the works. All plays are written with a collaboration of writers, members, alumni, faculty, and community partners. Unitas is also experienced during the performance as both the community of artists dialogue with the community of audience members over the performance. Over the years, USA Little Theater performances have engaged various audience members, students, faculty, professionals, alumni, community partners and beneficiaries, government officials, volunteers, among others. Many of the characters of these plays face and overcome their challenges with friends and the community coming together.
This is how Indigo performs!
The USA Little Theater sees itself as a university theater community that affirms Filipino and Ilonggo identity to promote authentic, human, and societal development. It commits itself to conserve Filipino heritage and innovate dramatic forms through research, instruction, and extension, and forms its members into managers, artists, teachers, and advocates. In choosing the materials for a theater performance in the USA Little Theater, we go back, of course, to our vision mission. We look into our Ilonggo heritage, we look into social realities, we look into issues that are relevant to us. And these will be the sources of the materials that we create on stage. Likewise, one of the things that we would love to do in the Little Theater is to explore forms. In fact, it is our mission to innovate theater forms. So our usual production is or cannot be confined by a certain genre, cannot be confined by a certain form. It's usually a play with genres and forms. One of the things that we have recently come up with in the past few years is that many of our plays are devised. And in a devised performance, the actors of the play are also its co-directors, co-facilitators of knowledge, co-researchers, co-writers, and that the story that is created is that of the community. So that's one of those forms, as far as process are concerned or is concerned, is being utilized by the USA Little Theater to come up with its performances. Likewise, we also are inspired by traditional and contemporary forms. So we use traditional and contemporary music, poetry, literature in general, and performance making in the presentation of our work. So in that way, the USA Little Theater performance is innovative, is fresh, is new. So when the pandemic happened, for example, we were able to translate. We were able to transition our performance from stage to screen. So what we usually see on stage is translated into various forms and platforms that we saw on screen. So there are monologues, there are scene studies done in multiple settings, in multiple frames. We were able to explore a fusion of comics and podcast, for example. We were able to do hybrid performances where there is live and virtual performances happening at the same time. So we were able to do, in our past years, dance dramas, musicals. We're able to do dramas, tragic comedies, name it. So there are various genres that we're able to explore. There are various ways also of exploring even the musical reviews that we did, or the veladas that we did, or even concerts that we did in the past years. And even the straight plays also takes form. Our staging is also explorative. We've done proscenium, we have done on the round, we have done thrust, we have done site-specific performance. We also were able to do site and time-specific performance, for example. So it's really the innovation that is in the spirit of our work. It's in really the exploration of forms, platforms, and performances that mark a USA Little Theater production. The actors of the USA Little Theater are students of the University of San Agustin. And generally, before before a student becomes a member of the USA Little Theater, he has to or she has to undergo a certain process. Now, first, there's a call for audition. So in this particular phase, the audience member knows about the Little Theater through a performance, through our social media page, through through word of mouth. So anything that makes them come in contact with the USA Little Theater is that point of interaction of our company and the prospective member. And then the member has to undergo orientation, and then where he knows and she knows about the USA Little Theater, our history, our vision, mission, our core process, our storytelling, the things that is being asked in this particular documentary are being introduced to that particular member. And then he or she undergoes auditions. Actors, for example, have talent tests. They are put into improvisations. They're asked to share what they know as far as their artistry is concerned. But there are also other members in our team, like our multimedia team, who has to know a little bit of graphic design, or video editing. The people who works with our production design team has very strong visual skills, no, in interpreting those visuals in terms of materials. So all of our actors and members, no, designers in the USA Little Theater go through an audition process, and after they are selected, they become apprentices in the USA Little Theater and have to undergo workshops to enhance their skills and provide them with opportunities to interact with our members. So I'd like to use this as a background in terms of eventually selecting an actor for a show. So an actor that is involved in our production is a member who is aware of what the company is, aware of our vision and mission and the directions that we take, is an artist who works well with other people, no? Because we belong to a community. So eventually an actor is selected for a particular role, and the actor must then possess, no, the qualities that the role is asked. No? Usually our actors undergo a certain curriculum. This includes history of theater, acting, no? Various methods of acting. He's introduced also to improvisation. He's also introduced to the B side of A, or the business side of the arts, things like arts management that includes marketing, fundraising, production management, stage management. He's also introduced to theater production and the various elements that come into fruition when a theater is being created, when a play is being staged. So he's introduced to lighting, he's introduced to design, no? So that the artist or the actor that comes in the theater is aware of this theater making and aware of all these people involved in the theater making. That's quite important. Aside from just simply an actor diving into a story and understanding the character. So therefore, the character, or the actor rather, who is selected must possess the skills that are necessary, not to deliver the piece. But at the same time, he must also have the knowledge, skills, and attitude that is required of him as a member of the company. Once the actor is selected, he goes into the usual process of discovering his character, looking into the 3 dimensions of his character and the relationships of all characters in the story, and may sing, may dance, may act, no, may explore forms in eventually creating the play for the audience. Again, in recent years, our co-actor or our actor becomes a co-actor, no, in a device performance. So the actor here must know about writing or storytelling. Our actor here must know how to be a co-devicer in a device piece, and must therefore also be a very strong team member, no? In order to create the stories that is needed to be shared to the audience. So these are some of the things that is expected of a member of the company as well as an actor in a play for the USA Little Theater. Primarily, the audience of the USA Little Theater are the students of the University of San Agustin, or at least the younger demographic. No? So these are the people who expect performances that are fresh, that are innovative, that are relevant to them, and therefore stories that they can relate it, they will patronize. Our audience primarily are experiencers. They want to feel the fullness of life that is translated in the performance. So, and it's not boring. It's not too in the nose. It's not in your face even. It's fun, it's exciting, and it makes them really feel that they are truly alive. So I think that's a kind of demographic that we see, the people that are coming into our plays. But at the same time, the USA Little Theater is also an advocacy theater, which means that we have a lot of partners that expects us to articulate the issues of the time that is relevant to their own institutions. No? So for example, the DSWD or the Commission on Human Rights or the Department of Education will partner with a company, and they would expect, of course, us to address the issues of our time using the form that is theater. So those partners of ours and the audiences that they bring to the theater or our are exposed to our theater, when we reach out to them, expect that we deliver performances that are truthful, that are factual, that go deep into the issues that we are discussing, and makes them relatable to the audience that are seeing it, no? That are not necessarily young, but are those people who need the information, who need this truth-telling, people who have the same advocacy as ours. So, and then of course we have the Ilonggo community. So I guess the Ilonggo community expects us to tell their own stories, express their own forms. So we also look into that. And many of our alumni, in fact, are into festivals, and festivals tap into roots and routes of our culture, which means that they go into heritage work, they look into the stories and histories of the communities, and bring those stories and histories into life, no, in very engaging forms. So that's another demographic that we're looking at, no, the local, the Ilonggo, no, the Western Visayan. But you know, we've been around for the past 57 years, and the USA Little Theater has also audience in national festivals and international festivals. And again, all of these would celebrate the local genius, will celebrate local culture that have international appeal or global appeal. So those are the things that that we choose, no? Things that will resonate to our audiences in various demographics. So the expectations of our audience is quite clear, no? It's the same expectation that has become our aesthetics. Maalam, matinlo, matahom, may dulot. So what we expect our audience to take away is that there is a world out there that is much larger than themselves, that there are issues affecting them that have various faces and phases, that there are realities that is waiting to be uncovered or discovered, and that there is indeed this world around them that is in a way much larger than the world that they are living in. But more importantly, every LT play usually ends with a call to action. For example, in the play Shook, no, the USA Little Theater talks about mindfulness and mental health. In this particular play, a lot of issues that our young people are facing right now were presented to them. Issues about their parents, issues about their friends, issues about their relatives, the peer pressure, the academic load in the university, the expectations of people in their social media accounts. So should we discuss this? But we do not just leave our young people with issues that have a lot of questions that remain unanswered. We provide them with coping mechanisms like exercises on mindfulness, like how to understand the issues that are confronting them, and let them breathe in and out, and eventually look at the issues face to face and address them, so that when they come out or when they go out of our theater, they do not feel victimized. Rather, they feel engaged, and that they are empowered, and that they have choices that they can make when they go home and make the decisions in their real life outside of the stage. So there's always a call to action. It is empowering, it is life-giving. Any space where an audience can interact with the actor and vice versa is an ideal space for this USA Little Theater. Primarily, I guess, the USA Little Theater performs at the USA Auditorium. It is its home, or our home. And usually, since the USA Auditorium is quite big, we have the audience and the actors on the same stage, on the main stage. Usually, you know it's an LT performance when you enter the auditorium, you are ushered not on the seats that are provided, but you're ushered on stage where seats are awaiting you. And our space in the USA Auditorium is a thrust stage so that we can be more intimate, that we can engage our audience much more. So it is a little theater in a sense that it's not just little in terms of size, but in terms of making the spectacular intimate, in making sure that our stories reach our audience in a way that is parang near to them. So that's the kind of space that we want. We're able to connect with our audience. We can move to one audience member to another, laugh with them, cry with them, share our stories with them. So that's usually a USALT space. But like what I said earlier, any space where our audience and actor can engage is space. So in the case of Yolanda, for example, our space became the places that have been devastated by Yolanda, the worst typhoon in the Philippines. So our USA Little Theater went to Lemery, for example, and we performed on an abandoned playground where what you see around are fallen trees. The playground is in disarray. The swing is out of its place and all that. So we brought the kids there to that space, and they enjoyed a children's play called Basura Busters, and they also were able to play. We were also able to play with the space in the sense that towards the end of the production, the trash around that particular space was gathered by the students and placed in different containers or trash bins. No? So again, it was an empowering play that utilized the site, no? Which in this particular case is a site of a disaster, a site of the typhoon. We later on transferred to a chapel that was run down. In fact, when we were performing Basura Busters there, and then there was no roof in that chapel. Rain was actually falling, and the audience members, who, by the way, were just experienced the worst typhoon in the Philippines, were opening their umbrellas and just allowed us so that the show must go on. And so we embraced that space, that relationship between actors and audience, and the show really went on with all these Yolanda survivors laughing because of the comedy that we bring. So instead of just bringing relief goods, we gave them comic relief in these site-specific areas. We have performed in various spaces in the university, in our parks. We performed on top of trees, on top of tables just outside the alumni hall, for example, or on the tables and benches on our parks. We have performed on staircases. We have performed in classrooms and in hallways. So, any space where we can engage our audience becomes a performance space. We also have traveled around the country and in various performances, both traditional, where an actual theater exists, or in a site, have become welcoming to us. So we have performed in, the PETA Theater Center, or perhaps we perform at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. So these are traditional spaces. But we've also performed on streets, recreating, for example, a massacre in Negros Occidental with other Visayan artists. So that street has become our space. We have joined festivals like the Dinagyang, where we are also taking it to the streets and bringing in the heritage of the Ilonggos through our gigantic puppets. So we've also performed there. So really, wherever there's people, wherever there's a story to tell, wherever that space is filled with people and actors and the convenient to tell the story, that's the theater space of the USA Little Theater. And it's not just space. We're able to also experiment on space and time. We had a performance we call not just site-specific but time-specific. The play was Passion Fruit Shake, and the play's setting was at the USA Student Center at 8 o'clock in the morning, then at a classroom at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and at the auditorium at 5 p.m. According to the story, according to the script, what we did was we had an audience move from one space to another, and then watch the play in the given time and space that is required in the play. So that audience watched Passion Fruit Shake, Act 1 at the Student Center. Then they were welcomed. They welcomed the actors in their own classroom for Act 2 at 1 o'clock. And later on, they watched the culmination of the play, Act 3, at the USA Auditorium. So time and space also becomes a collaborator in that sense, so that they can have that beautiful theater experience, that lively, ephemeral theater experience. We also have a festival, no, where we celebrated various sites, no, sites, no, things to see, and in different locations around Iloilo City, where we celebrated theater in various stages, in theaters in the university, as well as in various landscapes in the city. So really, space is for us quite an innovative form, quite an innovative adventure that we love to explore at the USA Little Theater. In selecting a space and in an ideal world, how we wish we would love to have an air-conditioned theater space with cushioned seats, available parking, a very convenient location like the university, a space where there is ample light and lights fixtures, where there's a space enough to contain our props, our sets that are easily transferred from one location to another. So in an ideal world, the USA Auditoriums becomes a good space, or perhaps the Cultural Center becomes a good space, or the Silliman University Cultural Center, the Luz Auditorium. These are ideal spaces. But these are not just the cards that are given to us. Really, it's a space where it can attract audience, where storytelling becomes convenient, where actors feel relaxed and even challenged. So that's a beautiful space for the USA Little Theater. The creative journey in writing a play for the USA Little Theater begins with confronting the issues of our time. We look into personal and social issues that affect us. We then storify these issues or write a narrative. We look into the characters of the story and how they interact with each other. We focus on conflict and how it is aggravated and eventually resolved, if it ever gets resolved. We look into the central message or the theme and how it is conveyed through the story. We eventually devise the production through collaborative writing, performance, directing, and designing. Insights are articulated and eventually synthesized in the performance. We preview the play and incorporate the feedback in our drafts, and eventually premiere the production. Many of our plays get rewritten throughout the runs and through the years of relevance and resonance. For example, when we felt strongly about extrajudicial killings, we created the play Woke in collaboration with ABCom students who workshopped this particular piece. When we thought that, there were a lot of stories that are brewing around 2019, we came up with the play Adobo that used adobo as a metaphor for what's cooking in the Philippines. Again, about mental health, we wrote Shook in the environment. We wrote Basura Busters in Silina Tierra, advocating for waste management, advocating for better understanding and mindfulness of our environment, especially our trees and the green that is surrounding us. So again, in terms of creating a performance, it starts first with writing the script, and when we have selected the story that needs to be told, we start rehearsals. Like what is usual, I guess, in most theater companies, it starts first with the reading or the reading rehearsal. After everybody knows already the story in the first reading, we now launch into casting, no? So we have auditions, and then we eventually cast the characters of the play. Once the actors are cast, they now start the reading rehearsals for the play, this time with the actors as their characters. During the reading rehearsal, the actors get to know all about their characters. Eventually, they understand the three dimensions of their characters, the relationship of the characters with each other, and how the elements of the story like character, conflict, plot, theme, and setting, affect everyone in the story. So during the reading rehearsal, aside from understanding the story and its elements, the characters also understand each of their actor and their fellow actor, each of the character and their fellow characters. Likewise, in the reading rehearsal, speech patterns are scrutinized, articulation, pronunciation, enunciation are scrutinized. We look into how we expressed a word, how we express a phrase, again in the reading. So, and that takes about a few days, no? After reading, we go into blocking, which is basically movement from one space to another. We start first with an initial block with substitute props. We also go into, after blocking rehearsals, we go into business rehearsals where the actors think about what their characters need to do, the movements that their characters make. No, sometimes it's directed by the sitting director, or sometimes it's improvised. Sometimes it's an expression of a workshop. No, that goes into reading, blocking, and business. No. So after the business rehearsals, we have run-throughs and polishing. So we run through scenes, we run through the whole play, we go stop and go, we polish the scenes, and we polish the whole play. No? After that, we go into the technical rehearsals where technical elements like lights and sounds and other effects are come into fruition. We also take into consideration the coming in of props and sets, no? And after that, after the technical rehearsals, we have the dress rehearsals, or the dress tech rehearsals for that matter, to see how all the elements come together, especially when there's costume and makeup around. And after that, we will have a critics night. We have a premiere, no, or even before the premiere, we have the critics night. The actors and the director and the rest of the team, the creative team, get to improve the play in the last few days just before the premiere. After the premiere, we even collect the suggestions of our audience, or even our alumni who are in attendance, or perhaps even critics, no. And if we have more plays in succession after our premiere night, then we improve, no, based on the feedback that we get. So basically, play is a work in progress that we all love to do. A successful rehearsal happens when the actor discovers himself in his character, when the character resonates to him or her. It is successful when the company understands the story and not just the actor. Not everybody in the play understands who the characters are, what the story is, and the message that is being conveyed. Like our audience, when the artists involved in the production experience matahom, matinlo, maalam, and may dulot, no? Or the beauty of the play, how the play is organized, the intelligence of the play, and the play being an effective medium. So when all of the artists collaborating understands what they are doing, feel what they are doing, then I guess that's a successful rehearsal. So once the rehearsals is set into motion, the stage manager, the director, and the actors discuss, how best to run the rehearsals. What's the appropriate time, the appropriate place, the scenes that need to be addressed first or rehearsed first, and eventually a production schedule and rehearsal schedule is made to make everybody fall on the same page. The members of the USA Little Theater learn about theater making by actually making theater. which means that the only way to do it is to do it. So, in as much as the USA Little Theater has, orientation and auditions, we have several workshops that is part of our curriculum, or they have various rehearsals. What is very important is for them to join plays, to join productions, to join in the practice of theater making year after year. And that's the only way they can not just only understand, but also absorb, immerse in the process of theater making. Learn how we make our stories. Learn how to work with artists collaborating in the production. Learn about how to act, how to work with their audience. So there's no other way to learn but by doing. After all, the place, the thing, and what they need is to explore through play. The USA Little Theater is a bit self-aware, or by design it is self-aware. Usually what happens after rehearsals, after workshops, after productions, the USA Little Theater sits down in a circle and discusses what worked and what can work better in terms of our processes, practices, in terms of our relationships with each other. So in that sense, we are self-aware by listening to each other. We also ask our audience, we also ask our partners their ideas about our work, their feelings about the stories that we make. In that way, by listening to them, we become more aware of what we are doing and how we can make things better as far as sharing our theater practice with our audience and with our partners in the communities. Part of our vision mission is to innovate dramatic forms. And the only way to do that is to be open to innovation, is to be open to new ideas. In our process of improvisation, in our process of theater making, members in a device work share the innovations in their mind. We test out what work and what can work better. We test various approaches of acting or approaches to character making and storytelling. We explore forms and even platforms, so that we eventually come up with something new, something fresh, something relevant. So we are open to these ideas as far as our theater making is concerned. Likewise, it's also very important for us to be aware of the practices of other theater groups or organizations, their practices in theater. So how do we do this? We learn from them, we work with them, we join workshops with them, we go to conferences here and abroad to understand the work that they do. And coming home and looking now at our own theater practice, we are made better because of our interactions with our community of theater makers here and around the world. The USA Little Theater, or theater for that matter, is a product of its own history. It's a product of its own time. It exists because of its own time and place in history. So whatever surrounds the company, affects the company. The stories that we make are contemporary. They are things that we care about. And the realities that affect us at the given moment become part of our storytelling. I think I can remember when the pandemic started in 2020, we had to engage that change in our own reality. So in 2020, we had to change from stage to screen. We had to look into various platforms over social media. We have to explore forms in which we're able to adapt to the given times, which is the pandemic.
The USA Little Theater celebrates its 55th year in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. We adopted the theme Altshift for our theater season in the new normal as we continue exploring alternative ways of shifting our stage to the screen. We opened the theater season during lockdown, sharing our Kwentong Quarantine. Kwentong Quarantine is a series of online performances featuring artworks, poetry film, movement, and music produced in the spirit of creative expression and healing by our very own USALT members, alumni, and collaborators.
The pandemic gave us the opportunity to reimagine theater and adapted some of our previous plays into films with a distinct quarantine aesthetics. Maria Clara, our entry to Tanghal 14, the National Online Theater Festival, became a window into the kept stories of abuse creeping in the households who have long been locked down. Some put brave faces over their social media platforms and suffer in silence. The days of physical distancing have placed a toll on our mental health and got us all shooked. The recent iteration of Shooked, which opened at the start of the new school year, does not only explore the stories of isolation, but also provide examples of how to be mindful, to love ourselves, and be kind to others.
And in the past 2 years, we're able to come up with full-length plays that are translations of stage to screen. We're able to come up with performances with multiple screens. We're able to come up with hybrid performances of live and virtual performances happening at the same time. We're able to come up with an online musical, a fusion of comics and podcasts. So all of these forms and all of these innovations, we were all a product of the reality that is the pandemic. So, the basics of improvisation is yes and, pandemic and, reality and. So when you have that spirit of improvisation, when you have that spirit of play, when you have that spirit of a work in progress, then you're attuned to the realities and you don't allow the reality to overwhelm you, but you work with them like actors in a scene. It's quite difficult to assess the impact of our theater to our audience, the work what we do to the people who watch our plays. Perhaps an easy way to answer that question is, by the reactions of the audience, when they laugh in our comedies, when they cry in our tragedies, when during the play they interact, whether they're on stage or on screen, when they ask questions during talkbacks, when they have more conversations in class after watching the play, when it becomes, part of the discourse of our students. I think that's when you know that your play is affecting them and affecting the communities that they live in. So, there are plays, for example, that perhaps have tangible results. Like earlier, I talked about Shook, and how our audience were able to articulate in their reflection papers the things that trigger them or the things that shook them, and how can they respond to it and how it empowers them, whether they seek help from their friends, their family, or even from the guidance office. So we discussed that earlier. Or how, for example, students in humanities appreciate the Panay Bukidnon after watching a play on the indigenous peoples of the Philippines, particularly when we work with the Panay Bukidnon in Tarangban. Or, for example, how they're aware of human rights when they were watching Woke, when we discuss about extrajudicial killings and they articulate that in class. Or, for example, when they learn about how relevant Rizal is as they watch a contemporary version of Noli and Elfili in Bayan ni Rizal. And through class discussions, they're able to connect with the stories of the past with their own stories. People like, or characters like Maria Clara becomes a visage of domestic abuse, or Basilio becomes an image of child abuse. And how are they able to relate to these issues of the time, and how are they able to respond to these issues of the time? And so the way they're able to, or way we are able to know how it affects them is through the reflection papers and the class discussions that they articulate, and that I, as a teacher, for example, would hear them, or their classmates who are members of the company would hear them. Or perhaps we had a play on passion fruit shake about about finding passion and purpose in the university, when they're able to get excited about the things that they love and find in the university through our play, when they are able to dreamscape, they realize that they have the power to dream using the play Passion Fruit Shake. Or perhaps, very simple things like when they watch our orientation program, Pang-Abi-Abi, and the USA Little Theater performs the rules and regulations in the university, and then the administration and the students are aware that through the play on rules and regulations during Pang-Abi-Abi, they're able to understand the rules that they have to contend with when they are in the university, or when they celebrate our university spirit, when we organize events like St. Augustine's Feast Day or University Week. I know they have a lot of answers to these questions, but just looking back at our productions, these are the ways we know that our community, particularly here in the university, is being affected, is being changed and for the better because of the work that we do at the USA Little Theater.